Hey guys, welcome back to another Creative Tab tutorial. Now this is a 1 of 4 part because I'm doing a new series on kind of like UI, user interface kind of designs, so sort of like little icons animating and stuff like that. Now we're starting off with some loading circles. So I've got one example here. This one was taken inspiration from the old first original Wii. When it was kind of loading up or installing something, it kind of had something that was very similar, and I didn't have anything to, I didn't actually Google the loading circle for the Wii, so it's not exactly the same. I think it was actually blue and it was glowing a bit, but we're going with something like this for this tutorial. Then in the other tutorials, just to give you a little heads up, we're going with a sort of much more simpler one with a kind of like fast, slow kind of like gliding animation. Then we're going with a very simple kind of YouTube looking one, just kind of rotating circles as a video is perhaps buffering. And then for the final one, I've recreated the spinning beach ball of doom, that's what I call it, on the Mac when a Mac's loading. So we'll be recreating that kind of Mac sort of crash kind of logo animation, not logo animation, the sort of spinny, well, I call it the spinny wheel of doom, because whenever it comes up, it's always that my Mac's crashed. So yeah, that's what we'll be creating. Obviously, as I said, I'm going to be splitting it up. So let's head on in and create something like this. Now, just to show you what's going on, I've got a solid in the background, which I'll lock, and then I've got a shape layer with, let's look at the contents. I've got an ellipse, which is just this sort of background circle, and then I've got this circle on it as well. Okay, so I create this asset, and then I simply animate the rotation. Now, I've got some blending modes on here, no, sort of blending options, they're like layer styles, sorry. So we've got drop shadow and a bevel and emboss, okay? So let's go and create a new composition. So I'm going to go composition, new composition. I'm actually going to take this down to 5 seconds, don't need any more than that. 1920 by 1080, 25 frames per second, and I'm going to call it loading underscore circle underscore 1. And I'm just going to put tutorial, just so I know, because I've already got a loading circle 1. Loading circle 1 tutorial. So I think that's all okay. I'm going to click OK, and it'll open up this new composition for me. So the first thing I'm going to do is layer, new, and a solid just in the background. So I've got a nicer color. I'm going to go with this blue solid. It's 20B3FF if you want the exact ones, but do whatever color you want. Click OK, make comp size, and click OK. Now, if you wanted to, you could add like you could type in gradient ramp and put a gradient ramp on here and have 2 different colors. Tell you what, as I'm here, I'll do it. So I'll go up there and have a sort of darkish blue to a very similar light blue like that. Very, very simple. You don't have to do that, but why not? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock this layer now, and I'm also, before I lock it, I'm going to rename it, and I'll just call it BG for background, so I know what that is, and I'm going to lock it, okay? What I'm also going to do, just to help me, is I'm going to go to here and turn on title action safe, and I'll just give me a center point there, okay? Now, with this layer locked, I'm going to get this ellipse tool, and I'm going to start drawing a circle. Now, I don't want to fill, so I want to click the word fill and just click none and click OK. Now I want to click the word stroke and just turn this on to a solid stroke, and I think I'll go for, I think 45, we'll go quite thick. And there you go. So if I come to the center point now, hold Control and Shift, or Command and Shift, so try and get more or less in the center. Click and then Control or Command and Shift, and then you can drag out and you'll get one which is fairly in the center, circle like so. Okay, just going back to 20 pixels for stroke, so I'm going to take this up to about 45. Tell you what, even, no, I think 45 is fine. There you go. So we've got this. Now, what I want to do next is, if we look at my other example, I've got a little bit of a bevel and emboss on there. So we're going to go ahead and add that. And the way to do that is come to layer with that layer selected. So let's rename this to loading circle. What you also want to do actually before you do that is click this layer and Control or Command double click this pan behind tool. Okay, so I'll show you what that did. Mine moved very, very slightly, but if I Control or Command double click that, it'll snap right to the center, because we're going to add a circle on there later, and if we center it when there's a circle added, it's kind of going to be a little bit off. Okay, so just make sure you do that now. Control or Command, double click, and it'll center the anchor point. Okay, come back to the selection tool, and we're going to go layer, and where is it? Layer styles. These are like the ones inside of Photoshop, and we're going to go to Bevel and Emboss. So you can see we've got a nice little effect coming on there. If we come down into the Bevel and Emboss options, the size, I'm going to take this up to about there. I'm going to soften it. Don't know why I pronounced the T in soften then. I'm going to bring back the shadow opacity to about 45%, I think. Yeah, something like that. And you know what? I'm fairly happy with that. I may play. You can play around with the altitude of the light to make it more subtle, and the angle. But yeah, I think something like that's going to be fine. You know, you can see there's a little bit of a sort of bevel going on there. So next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to collapse these down. I'm also going to add a little, whatchamacallit, drop shadow. So layer styles, drop shadow. Where's the drop shadow? There we go. Come into the options for this. Distance, I'm going to bring this out quite a bit. Size, play around, something like that. Get it softer. And then the opacity, I think I'll bring this down to 50. There you go. So I've got 50 opacity. Size is 58. The distance is 53. Okay, so just play around with whatever looks best for you. Okay, then next is add in a circle. So with this loading circle kind of selected, I'm going to get my circle ellipse tool again. I'm going to give it a fill this time of completely, right, don't do it yet, so okay, cool. Cancel that, and I'm just going to draw, holding shift, my circle like so, okay? So I'm going to come in and make sure I've got ellipse 2 selected. So it's only affecting ellipse 2. I'm going to go to fill, give it a white fill, and I'm going to take the stroke off. So if we click the word stroke and click none, there you go. So what we've got is this circle which has got the bevel and emboss, and it's got the drop shadow. Okay, so all we need to do now is with this ellipse selected, so come into the contents, ellipse, we're going to move this so it's just on here like so. Okay, so we've got now our ellipse, our circle, and our sort of filled in circle and our outer circle. Okay, now the fact that we centered our anchor point earlier, if I click this, our anchor point's in the center. So if we were to hit R and rotate, you can see it is actually rotating the whole layer, but you can't see any movement of this outer circle. So if I were to have centered it now, control double click, you can see my anchor point moved a bit because obviously it's equating for this little extra pixel at the top. So now if I do it, you can see it actually moves. Now if you're in that position like I am now, where it's kind of a little bit off, like so, all you need to do is come into the drop down, go to contents, and turn off ellipse 2, control double click, and that's going to center just to this. Now we'll just turn this one back on and collapse down, hit R, and as we animate this, there you go, we're good. So the way I'm going to animate this, some people might keyframe, but I actually want to have it kind of repeating. So I'm going to alt click the rotation, and I'm going to type in time, and then a little star, which means times, and I'm going to go 100. So time times 100, and click off. Now when I play, that's a little bit slow. So I'm going to come back in, I'm going to double click, time times, let's go 200. So as time progresses, it animates this. So that's a little bit fast. So let's go split the difference, time times 150. And I think that's that's decent. That's decent speed. Now what I also want to do is toggle switches, and I want to turn motion blur on for the layer and for the composition. So you'll see now there's a little bit of motion blur. And now we'll give that a little preview through. So that's quite a simple one for the first one. But you can see that we used shape layer, we used layer styles, we used expressions to kind of get it animating. And we've got something that looks quite nice. And I think it looks kind of extra nice with that kind of gradient background there. So yeah, cheers for tuning into this tutorial. Check out the others, the other loading circle ones and all the other UI ones, which I will be uploading over the next few weeks. Yeah, cheers for tuning in. Give the video a like, comment, subscribe, all that. Feel free to follow us on our Twitters, check out our other videos. But cheers, and I hope to see you again.